In this video, I am going to be speaking with Karl from Bento Security. He is sharing with me how they solved not one, not two, but three unique work problems thanks to Airtable and Softr as a front end. So if that's of interest, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth. I am the owner here at Gap Consulting, where we make it our mission to help you save up to 20 hours of your time every week with no-code tools. Now, if that sounds outrageous, it's probably because you haven't leveraged the power of no-code automation just yet. If you'd like to learn the fundamental building blocks behind that, I invite you to join me for my free training at garethpronovost.com/webinar-registration. Those links will be shared below this video. But without further ado, let's hop into the heart of it, where I am meeting with Karl, and he's going to walk me through all the cool tools that he built at Bento Security. Hi, everybody. I am here with Karl. He is the managing director at Bento Securities. Karl, thanks for joining us.
And it's nice to be here.
So we were introduced by way of Mariam, who is the CEO and co-founder at Softr. She's told me that you've built some pretty cool stuff in Softr, but to be honest, I haven't even seen it yet. So I'm hoping that we can maybe take a look at some of that today. But before we get going too far, can you tell me a little bit just about the business problems that you were trying to solve and how you even got in this space to begin with?
Yeah. So for us, it was volume and velocity. That was sort of the number one thing. We didn't know software existed when and we didn't know we needed software. What we had was an idea that we wanted to automate some of our processes and also create a customer portal. That's sort of where it all began. We started with that, and we used the competitor. And we tried for probably 2 years of creating fairly basic portal for some of the information that we wanted to relay to our customers that was a product of our work.
Mm.
And we continued to do that for, like I said, about 2 years and made zero meaningful progress. It existed, but we never released it to customers. And we were kind of stifled by costs from the competitor, but also the lack of flexibility and sort of what it really took to get anything built. Codeless wasn't really codeless in that situation. It didn't require any code, but it required a lot of work. And we kind of thought codeless would mean less steps. So we serendipitously landed on Softr. I think it was in November or December. And after a week or two of trial, I literally I contacted Arthur, and I said, "My tax year ends in December. I want to give you money now. Bill me, end the trial." And he was confused by that. It took like 2 or 3 iterations of email saying, we can extend the trial. I said, "You don't understand. I need to give you money because we are good. This is going to solve all of our issues."
Right.
And we did. And within 3 weeks from there, we had a working product that we released to our customers. And then we ended up doing 2 more products from that.
Wow. So you have a total of 3 different products now that you've built on Softr that are solving 3 different business use cases for you?
They're solving 2 of them are virtually a replica of each other. So they're solving it. They exist as 2 because we needed to split an idea into 2 parts, and the third one is legit. Like we had a business problem we needed to solve. So yeah, we ended up solving for the business problem, and then 2 that we had that we didn't know how to solve for that we were able to solve instantly, like faster than we could ever fathom the solution. We were able to solve for the problem.
Right. What was your background before you got into building, these types of tools with Softr? What were you doing before that?
So I mean, it's what I've been doing is what I don't build. We needed to build something that was custom to us, and I'm not a person that actually develops anything. I just like to tinker. My background is information management and information security, so that is what we do for a living. And this was essentially, I like to do my own stuff. I like to tinker. I like to know how things work. I like to get into the bowels of anything that I touch. So I personally like doing web development and doing application development when I could, with my very limited and very, very terrible skill set.
Right.
But I wanted to be involved. And Software just kind of let me do the whole thing.
It's funny you say that because I've heard this from so many people in and around this space where like a common theme that I continue to hear is people saying, I always had this idea, or I've always liked to be inside of this thing, understanding how it works, but I didn't know how to actually do it, or I don't know how to code, so I could never X, Y, Z. And then suddenly I found these tools and it let me take my thinking to the next level. So it comes as no surprise that you say, yeah, I always like to tinker. I love to get into the nitty gritty of it myself. And I mean, I think that's kind of the common theme that I see through people who are building these things.
I think that was the impetus. I think what really got me was we had an idea of what we needed, but we didn't. I don't think any of us are really good at conceptualizing an answer to a problem. I think
Mhm.
we know the answer when we see it, and I think we know what the problem is very well. But as far as sort of like being able to flow chart, here's all the features, here's all the specs that we're going to need for our own problem. We can do it for our customers pretty good, but for our own selves, we had a always a very difficult time doing that, and certainly I did. And what this allowed me to do is do one thing at a time, sort of take the low hanging fruit and
Mhm.
solve for a small chunk of my issue, and then just keep doing it, but do it at such a rapid pace that pretty soon I had a wholesome solution in place. And it kept me in the software is very powerful. It can do a lot of things, but it keeps you in a swim lane. So I was able to always push forward rather than spread out thin and do 1,000 things at once.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The whole question of how do you eat an elephant, answer one bite at a time. Software allows you to just kind of continue to put one foot in front of the other
Mhm.
and get closer to your goal. That's an interesting observation that I don't think I've ever considered before. In some ways, I feel that software is so flexible, as
Mhm.
all these tools are. Like, oh man, you can do so much. um, but I guess there are guardrails at the end of the day, right? It's not like you're writing code and you have an infinite amount of code that you could write.
Oh, it's time and money. It's a resource thing. I mean, like we're in cybersecurity, right? That's our thing, and
Mm.
or at least that's what our thing is today, and that's the whole reason the software relationship exists. There's no such thing as making a company perfectly secure. All we can do is mitigate risks and do what makes sense. Take the resources that are available and turn them into something that is valuable.
Mhm.
That's what software does.
Awesome. These problems before, you mentioned that there are, I guess, kind of two, maybe three different things that you've built.
Mhm.
Three, but solving two different problems. It sounds like. Were you able to solve these problems before, or were you just
No.
not solving them at all? What did that look
We
like?
punted them. So this was these were on the back burner on the one day we'll get to those. So just to kind of this really the reason I like software is because it aligns with our mentality, right? So the first thing is we've pivoted our business to predominantly security assurance. That's what Bento Security is. Bento Security is security assurance, and that is a pivot that's been taking us years into making. We have
Mm.
a larger company that we've built that has done IT and IS. We've been really good at managing customer records and doing our job through tools, but we're a non-traditional MSP in the sense that we write our own code whenever we can. We script things. We built our own methods. We don't go to one of the big brother companies out there, purchase their suite of make your IT work easier, and then try to get it all working and charge our customers for that. What
Right.
we do is we figured out what really works. We have very tight knit relationships with our customers. We do very bespoke services, so there is nothing on the shelf that we can buy that works. So over time, we've operated using a whole series of SaaS tools, and they included things like Harvest for time tracking, Pipedrive for sales, Teamwork for collaboration and documentation, so on and so forth. And there's other things that we use too, but we largely stayed away from the PSA or the because that just didn't work for us.
Mm.
And that was fine for a long while until we got big enough where it wasn't, and the information being distributed was becoming a problem. Lo and behold, Airtable. Airtable became the saving grace, because what we could do is we can pump data out of one system, consolidate an Airtable, and move it to another. So
Right.
Airtable became two things for us. It became a storage point of all of our knowledge and all of their information, operational and whatnot. But it also became a ephemeral or like a transient spot for data to just kind of flow, consolidate, reconcile, adjust, whatever.
Mhm.
And so Airtable became central. We could put things in Airtable, have them go to our other systems, and we could put things in other systems and have it go to Airtable. It's great.
Mhm.
Now we're like, all right, ready for a customer portal, ready to kind of bring it all together and create our own interface for it. As Airtable was launching interfaces, which are awesome, we were looking for something more. Like we were working on Airtable interfaces, and like this is on a timeline of like days, if not a weekend. We have the competitor, which I don't want to name shame here. We have Airtable interfaces that were announced, and we just started using them, and we're doing these things, and we serendipitously land on a Google link and their software, and we just connect. And it's like, that's it. That's the missing piece for us. So to sort of go back to the spirit of the question, we've been developing custom solutions for our customers. We've been developing custom processes for us to enable those solutions and to enable our own work. And we were piecemealing SaaS services throughout, sort of a decentralized, multi level supply chain stuff to try to make it all work for our needs. But it worked
Hmm.
really well. It made us very effective. And Software just kind of took us to the next level.
So when you were experimenting, with these interfaces, and when you were working with, competitors to Softr, what were the problems that you were running into? I mean, I know from experience myself with interfaces that it's cool. Airtable interfaces, I should be specific. But when you share it, you share access to the whole stinking database, and there's no way around it. And so very often when you're working with customers, you don't want to do that. Was that the
Okay.
same problem for you?
Yes, so security and no code, low code is still a that is an area that we're concerned deeply about. But
Mm,
it's not a bury your head in the sand situation. That's more of a we're going to do our best to mitigate all risks that we have. We're going to make sure that the data that we're currently planting in the system is stuff we're willing to lose. So
hmm.
there's, we don't, for the moment, anything that interfaces doesn't have access to critical stuff.
Got it.
Like really critical stuff, right? We don't want to leak anything, but if we did, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But in general, the sort of our approach to security assurance for low code, no code is like we got to be real careful. With that
Hmm.
said, even with knowledge of what the supply chain risks are and everything else, we did find one thing with a competitor that really bothered us, and it was that initial handshake I had with Software that showed us how bad they were doing and how good Software was.
Mm,
So the simple thing was the competitor asked you to go to your Airtable and share a view, and then paste that link into their interface, and then they were able to pull the data from that view. Great
right.
for deciding what they see,
Right.
except that I don't know if you've ever gone through that process, but Airtable really doesn't expressly tell you what the consequences of that are. And it doesn't
Hmm.
really tell you how important that password box on that screen might actually be. And it's kind of there, but it's not terribly obvious. So right out of the gate, when we saw that, we went, this is really scary because any person could involuntarily grab the share link, forget the password thing because they think that it's private somehow, put
Right.
it into the competitor, hit and go on about their day. Months later, you realize you have a public URL to all your data.
Yeah.
And Softr, conversely, did the smart thing and the thing I would expect any software company to do, which is they use the API and they connect
Right.
to the backend. They get a lot of access. That's okay. The way they're going about that access, it makes me sleep at night way better than public link with a password.
Yeah.
So it's all pros and cons.
Sure.
But in this case, I felt that the initial approach, sort of the core piece of it, was sound, and I could trust the other components. Whereas in the other direction, I felt that someone took the easy route and just kind of did it the best way they could.
This is funny because I do want to consider data security, and it's obviously something that's important to everyone, but I don't work in this space, so I don't have the same observations that you do. And I know exactly what you're talking about now because yes, I have set up portals in many different front end tools, and I always found it a little odd that some of the competitors say, "Hey, just give us a link and we're good to go." And I
I have
never thought
watched a
about the
video
fact
or two of you talking about said competitors, so I'm aware that you've at least interfaced with that link once before.
that's so funny. And I would expect, what you described here, where somebody has access to the API. I mean, that's the logical way that you would want to connect. And that's how we connect every other tool. So it's
Yeah.
kind of weird. And I
It
never
doesn't
even
make
thought of it.
and it doesn't make it any more secure necessarily because there's so much more that goes into that decision. However, if you're at a just a generic like first impression thing, and one person's asking you, give me a public link that maybe or maybe not you've secured with the password, and it's one of those things where there is no compulsory, it's all voluntary in that stage. So
Mm.
I don't, and the importance isn't there. Like it's not, it's just not clear. versus the other one that actually requires an API, which requires, you go into your account settings, pull it out. You're already better off with one, and that
Hmm.
may change. You have to revisit everything all the time continuously, but right at the very initial contact, one has gone way better. Software, that is, one has gone way more and way deeper into this than the other one has, and I trust it far more.
It's a great point. I never considered it. Thanks. Well, I think Softr might be rocking and rolling. Do you want to give us a little demo of what you've built if you can?
Yeah, as I'm logging in, the one thing that Software really sold me on is they had features that I didn't think I needed, and when I saw them, I was remarkably happy that they existed. And one of them is the sign in with code.
Oh, yeah.
It's perhaps one of my most favorite things, and the only reason I use it is because I noticed it and went, "I'm really happy someone thought of this." Not the idea; the idea has been around forever. It's that they put it in their software.
Yeah. There's so many little things like that.
Oh,
And, on a personal level, like my favorite thing about Softr is the fact that they're just constantly releasing new features. I feel like every week I'm getting a new email about stuff that I hadn't even really considered or that I've been waiting for. In some cases, the new one to come out, I think it's probably a week away still, is this comments block. And I'm like, oh, give me comments that are external to Airtable.
I feel like I did see that, and I was pretty excited about it. The first thing I'm going to show you is the thing that we were trying to solve, which was we wanted a customer portal, and we wanted a customer portal that would allow us to report out security assurance activities. There are products on the market today that do this for you. There's some really well funded products that automate security assurance or that allow you to do controls and policies and evidence collection. We thought about using one of those, but they were not really fitting the way we wanted to operate. So we thought we would do better building our own, at least for a long while, before maybe purchasing like an enterprise sized package in the future. So we were basically, our needs were exceeding anything that was affordable, and we didn't want to drop that literally hundreds of thousands of dollars that it would take to go somewhere real far.
Hmm.
So building on our own was the way to go. We started off with just something that allowed us to showcase audit progress. Audits and security assurance are just something that you ought to do periodically against all of your information systems, and let the customer know that we've been doing things. So this is just a demo account, but it shows you that, in this case we've had one audit perhaps for this particular site. The other thing is we wanted to showcase the results of those audits. So we were able to store all this data in Airtable and then create menus for the different things that we care about, like their email protection, email security, and such, and just report it out every time we've done it. So I haven't looked at this demo data in a while, but I'm hoping there's something here to show you.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
So, in this particular sampled case, we have a law firm that is running Microsoft 365. And at some point in time, we looked at their security scores and we checked their alarms and we made sure everything was clear. And we report this, and we do this over and over again for different categories of things. We're covering identity, devices, apps, data, infrastructure, network. So those are our ambitions. That was cool, and we were able to do that very quickly. We wanted to do more, and we started building out a control task system, which, as I've come to realize, doesn't have anything in it because it's a demo. That allows us to tell the customer all the work that we are interested in doing in the future. And I'll actually show you that in a little bit because we have another view of that. Um, Obviously, track identities if there were any. There's demo customer. You would see people and devices in here if there were any. And all of that interfaces with our other products that we use to manage. So if we happen to have RMM tools or MDM tools running, the data is going back and forth, and we can go ahead and anytime a new device appears, have it feed in here and so on and so forth. So we have proper inventory is what it comes down to. Because Software is not just an app, but a website, we're able to present the information in a nice way, or we thought was a nice way. And we were able to add other things like news feeds that we can rapidly add to that give us basically highlight the things we care about with our customers, and then go even further by even sharing our strategy for them. And what was beautiful about this is we were able to do all of this in hours. So while we were working on the portal, we were also developing Bento cybersecurity framework, which was essentially all of our approach, and we were making our practices transparent. And we were running that on WordPress using WP Engine, and then we were supplementing it with Wiki.js for all of the content. And we quickly realized that we could move all of that to Softr and make our life a whole lot easier. So we were able to convert the site within, I don't know, like 6 hours to Softr. Put together all of our content, which we already stored in Airtable anyways, make it available to the site, and then introduce other things. Like we had essentially PDFs with these control items that are integral to our operations, and now we're able to just make them as database items that are searchable and visible and such. So
Wow.
this was pretty epic for us, and this was a bonus. We didn't even expect to do this. This wasn't a need. This was just a hey, while we're doing this. And then we kind of had this rethink and went, wait a minute, if we can do all of that, then why not take our professional services and actually put a front end on them and make the e-commerce part available? So we were able to create a website dedicated to the sales aspect of it all, to kind of present what we do to the world. Drill down deeper, integrate videos. Heck, there's even a talk of me talking, or a video of me talking, and actually integrate an entire e-commerce piece where we can go and sell our services direct from website and kind of get customers hooked and engaged right from here. These were all bonuses. We didn't plan on them at all.
So you wind up finding a tool that solves one problem for you. You walk away with three like end-to-end solutions that took a matter of, in each case, a few hours really to get up and running.
Yeah, we probably spent a little time manicuring it all, but
Right.
the velocity of this process was so unlike anything. We always work fast. I mean, I'm sucking down a Red Bull as I'm talking to you. Speed is something that we are absolutely a favor of, efficiency, but this was
Yeah.
just a whole different scale. We weren't ready for how fast we could bring product to or service out, and we were just
Yeah.
solving things as we went along. And every time we did something, we went, oh, we could also do this, and it became a game of do we or do we not, because we don't want to get distracted. But turns out, if you just said yes to everything, you were still fine and you just developed more.
That's like the perfect storm, right? Because normally in business, you have to make these trade offs where you say, well, if I build this thing, it's going to sacrifice X, Y, or Z. Uh, but in your case, you're saying, hey, the cost was not, insurmountable. Obviously, Softr's, not terribly expensive, especially when you're getting this much out of it.
Mm-hmm.
The deployment time certainly isn't that bad, right? You can do it in a matter of hours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the hardest part about playing in this no code space is convincing people about what's possible, because I feel like when you tell somebody, yeah, we can build this site in a matter of hours and get you up and running and your database is living in Airtable, they look at you like, yeah, what's the catch? What's the real thing? So any advice from you, Karl, on how to help people see the light in that regard, because I feel like so many people are resistant to the fact that this is possible with these tools.
You know, again, working in cybersecurity, the two biggest enemies we have is the lack of prioritization and the lack of information. A lot of the sales process that we engage in is really about showing a potential customer sort of what the reality is versus what they think it is, and trying to convince them that that you might need us, you might not, but at least go through that process. I think I think no code might actually be undergoing that same thing, and I will say it's probably like rolling a rock up a mountain. I don't have very good advice for that, but I will say that if you had struggled before building any kind of a web environment that takes data from one place and puts it in another, then this will be an easy sell. If you've gone through that pain, you can see how powerful and how capable this stuff is, and you're just wowed in every corner. I think if this is your first attempt, you might your reality, your expectation might just not be aligned with what's out there and what the struggle might be, and I think you might see it differently. So I would say the one thing that you should do is try to do it another way, fail at it miserably, and then go in this way, and then you'll be very happy.
So great advice for anybody listening. That's the way we're going to go with this. Go try something out, fail miserably, and then you'll see the light.
I mean that's kind of, well, if you, again, cybersecurity, for the companies, financial services and stuff that know they're in need, it's pretty easy. They know what to do to prevent a problem. But the rest, they learn the hard way. They have an incident, and then they're like, oh, we need to do something about this. I
Right.
think that's the case here.
Yeah, I love it. Well, this has been awesome. I mean, I'm number one, just excited to meet you, and I appreciate you making the time to come on and share with everybody, what you guys have done. I wish you well. Where can people go to learn more about Bento Securities? Do you want to share any links with the audience who might need your services?
Sure. We work, we're a B2B, right? So we work with businesses. We're a small team that looks for a really good fit with a customer. So it's not something they just go like, oh, these guys, and you just like, there has to be a reason why you want to talk to us. But if you're a company that is looking for actual security assurance, in other words, you need someone to come in and understand the big picture and then sort of help you figure out what the right approach is to where you want to go. That's not just showing you tools or installing antivirus and things like that, which is very common in our industry. Then bentosecurity.com is the professional services side of it all. If you just want to see what cybersecurity is all about, bentosecurity.org is our open space where we tell you how we do our business. We have all of the resources that are at our disposal available to you. What I will say about that is, without having good knowledge of information security, that information itself is probably daunting, but it's out there. And the whole idea is every business ought to be able to do something right. So try it, struggle with it, fail at it miserably, and then come back to us and potentially hire us to help you do the thing right.
Hey, that's how we get a lot of our business too. So I totally empathize and gel with that philosophy there. So that's awesome. We'll include those links below in the description of this video for anybody who wants to check out Karl and Bento Securities. Karl, thanks so much for
Bento
making time.
security. It's not securities,
Oh,
because that would imply financial services.
it does. Sorry, I'll go back and edit that out.
You had it right to
Um,
begin with, though. It's okay. You can leave it in there, but you had it right to begin, and then it suddenly warped. So here we are.
so yep, it's the finance background that takes over at a certain point, and everything goes to hell in
Bento
a
Security.
handbasket.
Maybe one day we'll be registered as a cryptocurrency broker. We are developing our own token. It's Bentorium, but it's not out yet.
Oh, send me a message as soon as it goes live. I'd love to be in the beta group.
Oh yeah, that one's a long way away.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Karl. Really was a pleasure getting to know you and looking at what you've built. And I wish you well in the future.
Hey, thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, that's it for this video. Thanks again to Karl for joining me. Check the links below if you want to get in contact with Karl and learn more. And I will see you in the next video. As always, I hope you found that to be extremely helpful. If you did and you'd like to learn more, swing by our website and see how we can help. We offer a free Airtable crash course that will help you level up in Airtable quickly, and we also have some paid services, including hourly consultations with our experts. We have some online courses and a group coaching program, and for advanced needs, we can build a bespoke solution for you from scratch. So swing on by, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.